We're a not-for-profit organization with the somewhat ambitious mission of a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And right now what it is mainly a website that has a ton of videos on everything from basic arithmetic all the way to vector calculus and the Greek financial situation. And we've now translated into many languages. There's an interactive part of the site where students of any age can do problems, get feedback. There's dashboards for teachers. There's kind of a community on the site where people can help each other. And our goal is using these technological tools, how can we use them to empower, if someone has a physical classroom, what happens there? So
I think you're being a bit modest. Let's talk about the scale of Khan Academy. So it's only been around officially as its own standalone thing for about 2.5 years?
Yeah, it started unofficially about, depending where you start, the start point 6-7 years ago, and then it was in 2008 that or at the time I formally set it up as a not-for-profit, and then in 2009 I quit my job. 2010 was when we got our first real significant funding and I was able to hire other people. So it's really been just a handful of years.
And mainly during this handful of years, a one-man operation being Salman, who made videos, and these are really unique videos. These are illustrating, at least in the beginning, a lot of mathematics, starting from literally 1 + 1 = 2, going way up the complication scale. And there are how many of these videos up now?
There are now, I've made a little over 3,000. We have a total of, I think 3,400 is the most recent number. But yeah, and beyond math now we're in physics and chemistry and biology and medicine and whatever else.
And how many people view these videos?
So they've been viewed to date over 180 million times.
180 million.
180 million. 180
Austin
million.
Powers, yeah.
Million, yes. 180 million times. We right now get about 5 million students, unique students per month. Of all ages using the site. And then on the interactive side of the site, they've done close to 3/4 of a billion problems, and we have about 2.5 million problems being done every day.
You do them in 10-minute shots, right? And the reason for that was not just you had this insight that was the right amount of time, but
the reason why I started doing it is because YouTube only let me do it in 10 minutes. And later I backtracked and found all this research that showed, actually, maybe YouTube had done it ahead of time to figure out that 10 minutes was the right length. But there's actually, now I've realized, a ton of research that shows that is the exact, roughly the right level of someone's attention span to go deeply. And then, but you can do many of those 5 or 10-minute videos to cover a lot of material. And yeah.
So you have a new book coming out, and I forget the name, you're gonna have to say it.
The One World Schoolhouse,
which I did read, but it's a fantastic book, and I urge anybody to pick it up who's interested in what the future of education may look like. Certainly, it's not going to look like it looks now, and this is one vision, and it's a compelling one. But you say in the book that one of the things that when people are looking at a human face, we're programmed to look at people and read into emotions. So you don't see you, it makes it less intimidating to some degree.
Yeah, and I don't know for sure why these videos have gotten traction where I wasn't the first person to kind of think of this general idea. When radio came out, they said, oh, we'll have great teachers broadcast. When TV came out, same idea. VCR, same idea. Even in kind of Web 1.0, there were a lot of attempts at this, and I was probably the 100th person on YouTube to make education videos. But I think the feedback that we've gotten from a lot of users are, one, they just like the tone, the conversationality of it, but there's also this form factor that you're talking about, which is you don't see my face, which makes it feel like we're sitting next to each other at the kitchen table. It feels more intimate, and you also aren't distracted by this guy with a unibrow, and we are wired to look at human faces.
Right. And you talk a fair amount in the book about the concept of mastering concepts rather than just spending a certain amount of time on a concept.
Yeah, so these fairly, they're not simple tools, but they are simple ideas. They do open up a whole new model in how people can learn. In a traditional model, one we all grew up in, we are batched in these age-based cohorts, moved together, and a class at any given time, even the best teachers can only teach to some theoretical middle. Right. Probably half the students or more are bored, half the students or more are lost, and they get frustrated, they get disengaged. And then the only way that to kind of keep that pace going at a set pace is, well, that's fixed. The pace is fixed. When you learn, how long you have to learn is fixed. So I'm going to have you have variable understanding.
Right.
So we're just going to throw you at this, this hose is going to run, and you might have an A- level of understanding, I might have a B, she might have a C understanding.
Right.
And even though that idea that we just covered is core to the next idea, or an idea that's going to be in 2 or 3 years, and we've identified weaknesses. You got a C, got a B. We just move on. I mean, the analogy is if you were to build a house and you got the contractor to build a foundation, you say, I only have 1 week, I don't care if it rains, I don't care if your workers are sick, you build the foundation, the inspector shows up a week later, says, well, it's kind of, there's a water puddle in the middle of it, the concrete's not dry, it's 80% sound.
Right.
And you say, oh great,
yeah, build a
that's
house
passing, let's build the first floor. And you keep doing that, and then all of a sudden the 4th floor, which is the analogy of calculus, collapses, you say, oh, it was a 4th floor teacher, or I didn't study enough, or they weren't smart.
Right.
But it was obvious. You had these identified deficiencies the entire time. And so what we're saying is not that there's tools that students can learn at their own pace and master concepts before moving on. Can we rethink this model that has been kind of standard practice for hundreds of years?
It's interesting. So in order to essentially master a concept in the Khan Academy way, you've got to get 10 problems right in a row.
Well, we keep tweaking that.
Okay.
That's where it started. But the general idea is, yes, you need to have a solid foundation in things. And what you can also use with technology is constantly assess. In a traditional school system, learning is something different than practice, which is something different than assessment. They happen, for the most part, at different times. Now, every interaction with a system like this, we can log all of the analytics. The same thing, Amazon.com or Netflix has all of this data analytics. They can constantly run experiments to say, how do we engage people more? How do we get people to an outcome faster that they want? Well, now we can apply that to education. Every time someone interacts with the system, it's a bit of an assessment, and we can better model where they are on their learning curve and then say, what's the next best thing for them to do?
Khan Academy has grown now to 36 employees, and you're expanding worldwide. You're doing stuff offline, online. You're launching computer science. Where's this going to be if I come back and visit in 3 years?
3 years, I hope we're reaching 50 to 100 million students around the world. The site is localized into every major language. That's formally and informally. On top of that, I hope we're being used in 100,000 classrooms. That's reaching millions of students in a more formal setting. And I hope it's really brought into discourse the idea that we can actually fundamentally rethink what education is, and in a way that empowers all the actors in it.
Good luck.
Thank you.